3 weeks ago, Dane jumped into an ice-cold Idaho river to save a woman who had driven her car into the water in an attempt to take her own life. Now, Dane, walk us through this.
Well, my wife saw the car driving into the water. We're up on the overpass passing over the river, so we're quite a distance away. And my wife looks down and says, "Oh my goodness, there's a car going into the water." And I look over her and I can see it's already halfway into the water at that point. So I told my wife, call 911. I don't know if there's anyone down there to help. I don't know what's happening. So we circled back around, ended up on back on the on-ramp, not where I wanted to be, but it was as close as we could get. And jumped out of the car, told my wife, "I gotta go. You call 911. And I jumped out right there on that on-ramp, jumped over barbed wire fence, ran across a canal, and showed up at the river to see somebody in the water. And she said, I'm committing suicide. I'm fine. Leave me alone."
And how far is she?
She was a good 30 feet out at that point.
Okay. And so what happened next?
So at that point, I'm talking to her. When she told me that she was committing suicide, it was just, well, this is not what I expected at all. I mean, it caught me off guard. And the first thing that came to mind to say is, "Look, I don't know who you are. I'm here, and I love you. And I'm going to help you."
You jump in and start swimming to her.
I did. Yeah.
And how far was she away then?
She was a good 20 feet off from the shore, but it's pretty deep at that spot. But I jumped in. I threw off my coat, clothes and all. I jumped in with all my clothes on and just grabbed her. I just kind of went in behind her and kind of made my way to the shore.
Yeah. Now, the water was 19 degrees. So there's like ice crusting around here, and it's only the current that's keeping it from freezing completely, and
Yeah.
it is freezing where the water's still. So you jumped in a river that's 19 degrees, and all you know for sure is that there's a really strong current. And you swim out to get somebody who's trying to kill themselves and hook her up and bring her back. And she survived. We know that. How was she when you got her back to the shore?
She didn't say much. She didn't fight me after she realized I was going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
She was very cold. She was freezing. She didn't say a lot. I was finally able to get her name at that point, and so I could talk a little bit more personal. But we wrapped her up in a blanket. My wife finally made her way over, grabbed some blankets out of the car, and I took off her jacket and her sweater, wrapped her up, and I just held her close to me and rubbed her arm, trying to get her warmed up.
Yeah. And then the authorities got there because your wife had called 911 and took over, and you walked away. And at that point, it had to hit you.
We didn't make it a mile down the road before we both teared up and just realized, with everything going on in our own personal life, some people are really hurting out there.
Your father was a suicide hotline volunteer, and you think sometimes people just need to be listened to.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, statistically, if you can get people past that crisis moment, you can get them past that time where they make the attempt to end their life, the majority of them don't ever get back to that point.
I couldn't help but think of the loved ones that I have that have struggled. That's what came to my mind. I saw her as family. I didn't know who she was, but I just honestly thought she was family at that moment. I was like, what would I do for my own family? And there was no hesitation. I knew that's what I needed to do.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.